Hello, everybody. It's GW. I'm really happy to have you all here today. I hope you all listen to this. I hope you listen to it in a timely manner once I put it out on YouTube. It's the day before election. And before we get started, if you like what I'm saying, if you don't like what I'm saying, but you enjoy listening to it, please, subscribe, follow, do whatever the buttons say below. But would love to hear from you. Any comments you want to send back to me, I'm happy to listen to. So it's the day before the election. Elections in my family have been pretty important throughout the time. My grandfather was a city councilman in Oklahoma City for 16 years. It was 4-year term, so he ran 4 different times, fifth actually, because he did lose finally, but he only lost by 13 votes. That's obviously a very small number of votes, and I'm sure that there was a recount and there were all sorts of different politics that were being played during that. But he ended up losing by 13 votes. What bothered him was that the within the 2 or 3 days after the election, at least 100 people came up to him and said, "Coxie, if we had known the election was going to be that close, we would have voted." So they just didn't bother to vote. They wanted my granddad to be the city councilman there, but they didn't bother to vote. If you don't vote, you can't argue about what the outcome is. So tomorrow is the official voting day. We've got like 70 million people that have already voted in this country. So for all those of you who have already voted, good on you. Good on me for having done that also. But for all of you that were waiting for tomorrow, don't let the weather stand in your way. Don't let the inconvenience stand in your way. Go out and vote. It's important. It's really important. And somewhere in this country, there's going to be an election, that a local election, that is going to be won or lost by fewer than 100 votes. And there's no telling where that's going to be, but go out there and vote. It's important. Now, having said that, I really understand how people get so excited about what's going on in this country. I mean, it is just amazing what has gone on in the last 10 years in this country. I mean, we have a time now that 30 years from now, God willing, I'll still be here to listen to that. But 30 years from now, they're going to look back on this period and it's going to look like the McCarthy period in the 50s. It's going to look like Watergate, in the 70s. We're going to have this time that it goes on, and that's just going to be crazy as they look at that. But you have to have your say. So vote, and this is important. Vote with God in your heart. If you don't have Christ in your heart, then what you vote for may be very self-centered. It may be something that is really not for the good of the country as a whole. It may be just something that is just, more greed, more, different types of things that you don't really want to look back on and say, that's why I voted. So vote with Christ in your heart. And if you do that, then for yourself, you're going to make the right decision. Now, what is the right decision? Well, remember now, we're not just talking the president. We're talking senators, we're talking congressmen. Depending on what state and what district you're in, there's a myriad of things that we're talking about in this general election. But don't just vote because it's the party that you've always voted for. Don't just vote because you went to a campaign event and were blown away with the excitement of it. For those of you who are old enough, you remember the multi-level marketing things. You would go to those multi-level marketing things and you would walk out of there with your hair on fire. You were so excited as you did that. But 18 hours later, you'd be sitting there going, wow, do I really do I really want to do that? Do I really want to take the chance of alienating everybody I know or not? Type. But be that neither here nor there. Go vote. There's nothing more important. Now, it's important that you recognize that if an incumbent is in the party in the election, and when you look back at what that incumbent has done over the last 2 years or 6 years or 4 years, depending on the election, if you can't instantly go, that's what they did. They did this. They stood up for this state in the national forum or in the state forum. They stood up for this county. They stood up for this district, and they really did a good job. They really had a impact on what happened. If you can't easily point at something, then you really got to think about why you're giving them their vote. Now, here in the state that I live in, we have, in my opinion, some of the most ineffective legislators at the national level of any state that I've ever seen. Now, I say that. I used to live in Illinois, and the state representative had been there forever. And she was, on a personal level, she was a wonderful lady. But on a national level, she would just glom on to something that was going on. And she was such a periphery member of what was going on that she would just kind of say, oh, I went to a meeting and, this happened. Well, that is not an effective legislator. So when you take a look at whatever state you live in, take a look at who those people are and take a look at what they're representing. There was a thing here in the state that I live in where they had to, it happens to be a state that doesn't have state income tax. And they had this campaign ad that came on TV about a month ago. And it had this elderly, that's saying it nicely, elderly people who were sitting there going, wow, when she really grabs this and grabs it by the horn and there's no letting go and all this positive thing. Well, if that was the only thing that could be thought of for this incumbent to do that, well, that actual activity was in 2002 or 2003. It was over 20 years ago. And as near as I can tell, all the rest of the ads that have come out with this, there is nothing substantive that this person has done at any level in the last 20 years. Wonderful lady. I actually had a chance to meet her for 15, 20 minutes one time. Very nice lady. But not effective. Not very effective. So look at your current people. And if you can't say, this is what they've done, then why are we keeping them in there? Kick them out. Kick them out. I mean, that's why we have elections, to be able to, if a person's not doing the job, then we need to change them out. So what does this really mean? Well, it really means that tomorrow is election day. Please vote. As I've said before on here, I don't care who you vote for. I do care that you research who you're voting for. And I do care that you vote with God in your heart. And I think that that's more important than just about anything else, because that makes it that when you vote, you are voting with God in your heart. May the Lord bless you, keep you in peace. have a good vote. It's going to be an interesting time tomorrow night and into probably Wednesday morning, and hopefully not beyond Wednesday, but it's going to be an interesting time. Thank you all for listening. Please sign up for something down there. Support me. Um, follow, do whatever it is you got to do. Love to hear comments. All right. See y'all.